Hi everyone. Long time no running of my mouth into a microphone with my asinine quibblings, hey? So in this episode, I would like to investigate the notion of narcissism. Firstly, I would like to preface this with the fact that I don't have a degree in psychiatry, psychotherapy, or philosophy for that matter. And this is totally an uninformed and uneducated discussion of this topic that is seemingly running rampant on social media as if it's not an elusive term to be labelling somebody. Obviously, there is a clinical official description of what it means to be diagnosed with this mental health condition. But much like the doctor who created the label of ADHD, where he was supposedly quoted on his deathbed as revealing that it was just a made-up concept, and we can all agree that concepts aren't really reality, right? So take that as you will. Let's go back to the origins of the word, which is Narcissus. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. A character in Greek mythology who was mesmerized and infatuated with his own reflection in a body of water. He brought on his own demise by falling madly in love with essentially a mirage that was a mirrored image until he pined the separation of not always being around it and then died. So does that mean that in these recorded historical times, it was the invention of the mirror that may have caused this delusion of self-identity with our reflection rather than our original point of awareness? The I am presence in human form that the external light photons bounce off of to create an image in our likeness on a reflective surface. Mirrors creep me out, by the way. It's something to think about, as obviously in these postmodern times we find ourselves in now, since the advent of the camera, the internet and social media, this self-obsession has been exacerbated somewhat to extreme delusional levels. Now, I do believe narcissism comes in many varying degrees. I would even go as far as to say that I myself have narcissistic tendencies, and that we all have a narcissistic aspect to us. It's part of our human makeup, or ego's self-preservation mechanism, if you will. The way narcissism is used today, though, is it has become synonymous with predatory psychopathy or sociopathy, in that they are manipulative people that lack empathy for others. So it's kind of a bit misleading, because if you would have asked me what I thought a narcissist was before it became a popular label to call someone who has just mistreated you, for instance, I would suggest that it was someone with vain superficial tendencies, obsessed with their own self-image, so to speak. That main character syndrome, which has become a term now, and everyone else is a mere prop in your life's play, thinking that the spotlight is always on you. But obviously when people refer to narcissistic abuse in a relationship, it goes a lot deeper and darker than that. I think this phenomenon comes about when a culture becomes more consumer image based rather than a content of character heart based one. It has become normal to try to mold the perception of one's reputation, which you really don't have any control over, and it is seemingly going to go to extreme lengths if a social credit currency system is implemented, like that Black Mirror episode, where being a brown-nosing people pleaser to the detriment of your own integrity is paramount to your survival. So in conclusion of this incredibly ignorant podcast, I suppose my tip is to not be so much of a self-centered individual, but flip that to focus more on being a centered self and operate from that heart space outwardly. And if you're looking at the narcissistic abuser with more of a spiritual mindset, you might see these predator personality types as energetic vampires, because you hear about this narcissistic supply concept, which is just about draining your life force via attention in a toxic relationship through the tactic of setting up the two goalposts of guilt and shame to keep you gaslit in between them, in order that they can feed on the turmoil of you being in a powerless emotional victimhood state of being. That's my take on it in a nutshell anyway. So thanks for checking me out, and don't forget to like, subscribe and all that jazz.